have some experience of working on rebuilding heads for 650cc and early 750cc cylinder heads which have 8mm valves. Today I want to talk about the valve guides. These are bronze guides, 8mm inner diameter, which works great for all of our 8mm valves. I use brand Metelli, made in Italy. They all have the same inner size, 8mm, but the outer size is different based on part number. So here we've got the smallest one, 1913. Let's measure it. It says 14mm, 0.05. The next bigger size would be 1914, 14.1mm. And the biggest is 1915, and it has 14mm and 0.15. Okay, now we have 3 different replacement sizes. Let's check which one should we use in order to replace the old valve guide. Let's check this example. This valve guide is under tighten. It means that it easily went off. It took like several gentle taps to remove it from the head. It means that we need to use an increased size for the replacement. If, for example, it's 1405, now we have to use 1410 in order to the new guide to be seated well in place. The next example is about well-tightened guide. It means that it takes like maybe 6-7 medium taps to remove it. Well, it depends, but in this particular case, for well-tightened valve guide, I would use this replacement. It would be plus or 3mm tightness. And over tightened guide, it means that we have to use as close as possible size to the original one, so it's again would be 1410. One more thing, I'm going to use shop press to insert the new valve guides in, and if the valve guide just slips through, in this case we need to use the next upper size. So if it used to be for example 1410 and it just slips through the seat, we need to use the next upper size, like 1415, and vice versa. If we are using like 1415 and we feel that it's going very hard, of course we need to use the smaller size. In order to remove the old valve guides, we need to heat heads to somewhere in between 200 and 300 degrees Fahrenheit. The first thing once you remove the old valve guides is to mark them if they're like under tighten or over tighten, and measure them. So now I can use marker to mark the deepness, and that's how I know how deep it should sit. One note, given we've got 2 faces on both ends, here and here, the valve guide can be pressed both ways, from the outside and the inside as well. from that side. Once we press from outside like this, we need to protect this end because the tool can damage this end. So that's why I need to use like bushing, this one. This is my setup. The valve guide is oiled, the cylinder head is not heated. Let's measure now how deep the new valve guide should be seated from the combustion chamber side. It's around 15 millimeters, 15.5, and the exhaust one is 15.1. Exhaust one 17.4. Almost 17 millimeters, the intake one. Once valve guide is installed, I need to check that valve is not locked. I put a mark indicating the lock position of the valve, and this is the position where valve is getting locked, so we need some extra room for it. From the outer side, you want to make sure that the spring retainer is not touching the guide. I'll talk about it more in the next video. Now I have two reamers which are the same 8mm ones, and I've got 8mm .2 and 8mm .4 for special cases. So first we need to put some oil in it, and after that you can ream it like this, going always one way. The reason I want to use the big reamer is that the stem size is actually not exactly the 8mm. 8 minus 0.2 for the intake valve for this particular, and for exhaust it's 8mm minus 0.05. So that's why there is enough room for the exhaust one to freely move, but there is less room for the intake. That's why we need a bigger reamer. Let's try this one. I have added a bit of oil inside the valve guide, and now let's try to ream it. There is material coming off. Need to clean it and try it again several times until it's good enough. Alright, it's done. It runs great now, smoother. Has some play. Very minimal. The next video will be about springs, spring retainers, plates, shims, and so on.